Hello, my name is Tim Bernard, and this is Beyond the Headlines, where we take a much different look at what is going on in the world around us, what has transpired in the past, and what is coming in the future. Because if you forget the past or don't know the past, how can you know what is coming? You don't. But this is my website. There's tons of information there. It's also hooked up to my religious website, where I put up between the two websites well over 50 to 75 articles every week. And there's also videos, hours and hours of videos, hundreds of hours of videos actually, that you can watch on a wide range of subjects. So a very easy tool for you is to pass this on to other people while we still have it, because they're doing their best to close it down. As I've been telling you for years, we're now getting much closer to that period of time. But of course, the fake media, that's the new buzzword from Obama and all these guys, are the fake media, which is not the bought-off press, the people who are paid millions of dollars to read their script. That's the kindest thing I can say about what they do, because they're either very naive, very ignorant, very stupid, or they're liars, however you want to look at it. But they don't care as long as it's their lies, or as people have told me, well, this is my truth. Well, you're free to believe whatever you want. Now, because of consolidation, and it's both parties. I mean, as they own both parties, we've been trying to sort of take over the Republican Party because it's a little more pro-life and it's not allergic to Christianity, which many in the Democratic Party are openly destroying Christianity. And the rhinos, the Republicans in name only, are, I mean, it was George Bush who helped destroy the Middle East, with his fake wars. And of course, Obama only expanded them and got new ones. And as I told you before the election and right after the election, that they weren't going to be satisfied with the election results. And sure enough, and it's funny that they're using Jill Stein. We've been caught, or it appears that they've got this mechanical system set up, and there's an article about that if you want to delve more into it, because she's just receiving this I believe it was 160,000 like every hour or something, all 24 hours a day, all night. Just this constant stream of money. Now, there are real people putting money into it. We'll get into some of that later. But people like Soros with unlimited funds, who's openly spent tens of millions of dollars to destabilize other countries. He's openly admitted on 60 Minutes even that he was a Nazi collaborator. He's openly admitted to be a major Democratic fundraiser. And supporter of Obama, Hillary, the Open Society. And this is a liberal Democrat. I thought I'd keep her on since we're getting into this recount. This is Bev Harris. She's, this is her website is blackboxvoting.org, I believe. She did a documentary, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago even, called Hacking Democracy. And she stated that, because she's an honest, because not everyone in the Democratic Party are liars, cheats, and thieves, just like everyone in the Republican Party isn't. But she is a liberal Democrat, and she figures that it looks like Hillary stole 5 states. Of course, those aren't the states that they're going to have a recount in. But this could turn into a real mess. And they would like And I don't think this is over with just this. I think they're going to try other stunts to try and deal with, because they do not want Trump in there. We'll get more into that later, as this theme will develop throughout the show. This was a great clip I came across. I kill babies, soldiers, anyone in my way. I lie like a dog. My husband's a cheater, and I'm a thief. And you're afraid of Trump. I mean, and all those statements are true. I mean, if you don't, there's nothing that is false about any of those statements. But this is the la-la land that we live in. And the media, of course, was just reading their script. And the best liars you'll find in life even believe their own baloney. I told you before, and even George Soros agreed, that Donald Trump was going to win by a landslide. And that's the only reason he won it all, because it was such a landslide that he was able to overcome all of the voter fraud on the other side. And I mean, George Bush lost both elections. It appears that Obama lost the last election, though he did win the first one. But here's Newsweek's special edition that they had printed up before the election, similar to that picture back of Dewey wins, remember, back with Truman. And here it says the mainstream media, or the bought-off press, you know, we're just saying nothing but this is how it's going to be. And clearly that wasn't what it was. And this was a CIA head, a spook that came out of World War II. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. And this is what we're getting into, this time of complete lunacy. Up is called down, down is called up, good is called evil. Just as was foretold in the Bible. This is Soros with his Open Society Institute, openly destabilized and helped to overthrow duly elected government in Ukraine, sold out his own people in World War II, spent $33 million to do riots in Ferguson. This is what they want: order out of chaos, problem, solution, reaction. They cause the problem, they offer the solution, which is take away our freedom and rights to bring about their end. But we are the resistance, the V. This was from the Second World War, the Vichy government, which plays, of course, right into what we have now, the traitors within our government in both parties. And, of course, Jill Stein saying, who was supposedly not the person, you know, I'm not a part of the establishment, but yet, who does she go after? She doesn't go after any of the only states that'll help bring about a victory for Hillary Clinton. And I'd just assume that we open it up completely. Let's take a look at everything that really went on. They really don't want that to happen. They want to control the narrative if there is an opening, and just look at selective areas, not the whole range. But that's what will happen, because that's the difference between Donald Trump and Ron Paul. Ron Paul wasn't willing to go all the way. It appears, and we're going to start taking a look at Trump's problems, his real problems, not some of the phony ones that the mainstream media and their corporate masters have engineered. Because nothing that they're going to tell you about is that we are coming to you from Global Region 1, Subdistrict 10. Those are the FEMA districts. You can look them up. This isn't a theory. And that's from the Club of Rome. That's their book. It's even available free online. I have links to it and links to their baloney about climate and using the climate issue to set up their global government. Those who forget, and that book was written over 40 years ago when they were saying an ice age was coming. And then it was heating, now it's cooling again. So now they're just going to say climate change. I mean, whatever. Whatever you want to believe. This is Bohemian Grove. This is the dark side of the elite and what really goes on in both parties. Both parties know about this place at the highest levels. If you don't know anything about Bohemian Grove, I have stuff on my website. They meet there every summer. Of course, they never talk about it, but they did do a thing on 60 Minutes about it, but they didn't go in and show this owl and stuff. This is right out of the Old Testament. This is the lake where they bring a child in an effigy. They put it on that altar there, and then they light the fire. And that's, I mean, sacrificing. It's a mock child, but still, how sick is that? So if you don't know about this, this is right out of their own anal. So this is their like yearbook. Comes out every 10 years they do that. And we got a hold of one of them. To show you the censorship that is coming, Obama's been pushing it, pushing the to give control of the internet to the UN, and China's asserting its rights and trying to, they already censor their country heavily, and they're trying to get us censored, and they want to get rid of our guns because they think the Americans are so weak and so stupid that they'll just let the Chinese come in and just buy us up and take us over. And they have plenty of people to come in and occupy our country. It'd be easy. That's their plan. That's Hillary's plan. That's what Trump is trying to stop. And most of the Republicans are on board with Hillary because they work for the same people. It's not a two-party system. They fight about abortion, but it never changes. They fight about wars, but they only expand. And the devil is laughing as he seeps more and more in, but it's not his time. It's not his time just yet. Alpha and Omega, first and last. His time is coming. Here's a report. George Soros exploits Catholics as useful idiots. They've bought the bishops for $90 million. That was their sale, to sell immigration. Remember, it was the bishops who were for the war in Libya, though it met not one of Thomas Aquinas' four just war principles. Not one. And it destroyed the country. They have destroyed Christianity in the Middle East with their failed policies. There is trouble. And remember, 40% of Catholics, over 40%, voted for Hillary. You cannot be a Catholic, you cannot be a Christian and vote for Hillary. Because you either do not know Christ and his teachings, the gospel, or you do not know who Hillary is. I mean, who she openly says she is, let alone if you do just a little bit of digging into some of the other crap that she's up to. Here's a WikiLeaks bombshell. Some of the stuff that was hidden at the end, they were doing things to divert people, actually, especially with that second email dump, the 600,000 that Comey, who's, while he pretends to be a Republican, he's a rhino. He's worked with the Clintons before, getting people off, and he's compromised. And he sold his soul to help them get in. We told you that before. People lost their jobs trying to explain that to you, who laid it out and said this would happen, and that just before the election, but even that backfired on them. But people lost their jobs trying to tell you what is going on. But anyway, here's some people meeting with people in the Vatican about a strategy for the 2016 election. Soros gave him $650,000. This is some of the group. I've actually met, this is a top cardinal in the peace and justice. Of course, you never hear him come out and really whine like he should be about the eugenics operation that's underway. And I gave him all the scientific information on global warming, which of course they support. Now he has come out and they have mentioned a little more about some of the banking stuff, and that the wars need to be stopped. And that is something that I am 100%. I do not support the wars. Oh, and as a matter of fact, Donald Trump has said that we shouldn't have gone into Iraq. He could say more, but it would be too much. And he says maybe we should get along with Russia. And of course, Hillary wants to start a war with Russia. That's what she openly talked about, because that's the neocon position. And Cardinal Zinn, he's a Chinese cardinal, is complaining to the Pope again about their involvement with the Chinese government in selecting bishops and priests over there. And what is the sign for the Chinese? The dragon. Remember, the dragon comes to power. That's where the next person who's going to be coming onto the scene, similar to Hitler. There's some others too. There'll be a Persian coming too. And there's one in the church. But you'll see, this will all unfold as time goes on. All the evil in the world is due to lukewarm Catholics. Pope Pius V. And that is the truth. And most Catholics are lukewarm, the vast majority. The vast majority of the clergy, whether it's deacons, priests, bishops, or cardinals, are lukewarm. They're not at all speaking out like they should and just doing their job. Next year, this great celestial sign will be appearing in the sky. Hasn't happened in 7,000 years. We've done some stuff on that. You should do a little research if you want. If you've never read the beginning of the 12th chapter, it talks about the woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet. And of course, what is the sign for Islam? You should take a look at Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lord knows what's going on. We know He will win in the end. But that doesn't mean that we can sit back on our laurels, because how bad between now and this period of peace, which is coming, we are on the cusp of a period of peace where we will not teach our children war anymore. That's in the Old Testament, in several places. This is the end of military madness. But between here and there is the purification. And how bad that's going to be depends on you. Because at the very least, you can pass on this information that I'm putting out. I'm putting my life in danger. That's the real reason most leaders, especially religious leaders, will not talk about this stuff. I mean, they rationalize it to all this other baloney. And that's why I stay away from prophecy. I just show what's really happening. Irregardless of the prophecy saying it. And by the way, well, we'll get into that shortly. Our Lady of Good Success, 400 years ago, said that in the 20th century, this is what would happen. That who would be the total corruption of customs, the Masonic sects, and woe to the children of these times. And look around at the decadence. Everywhere. The decadence. Another thing she said was these times would be worse because those who should have spoken out will fall silent. And why will they fall silent? Because they care more about their flesh. Those who wish to save their life will lose it. That's Scripture. For Protestants and Catholics. Alpha and Omega, first and last. That's the key to opening the book of Revelation. As Jesus said, I am Alpha and Omega. If you read the book like that, it's the easiest thing to see. You know, all these people just talk about the Antichrist. Well, don't worry, he's coming, but we're first. And the mark that's on this priest's forehead, he received that in 1999. Look it up in the 6th chapter. We are marked first. The 4 angels have been sent to the 4 corners of the earth, and we are going to see problems upon the earth. Read for yourself what is coming. This is from La Salette, another church-approved apparition from the mid-1800s. A little girl, shepherd. You have to love God. He sends a little girl and a shepherd to lead his flock, to those with ears to hear. And this talks about the suppression of the mass. Another part of this prophecy is that Rome will lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. That's Catholic prophecy. It wasn't found out by Luther. And the first Protestant was Cain. Well, actually, the first Protestant was Adam. And we've had Protestants throughout history. Here's Stephen Hawking predicts the biggest event in human history. No. I'm sorry. He gets a lot of stuff wrong. The biggest event in human history would be the life of our Lord. His birth and his death. Our salvation. That's bigger than creation. Because had Christ not come, we'd be dying. But because Christ came and died for us and was the perfect sacrifice, we have, if we choose, free will to be in his kingdom. But we have free will, just like the angels did. The angels cannot repent because they saw the glory of God. We are still ignorant of this, but some of that will be taken away with the warning that is coming. And Eisenhower warned us. He didn't lay out everything. I can't play the clips anymore because I get copyright violations, even though those are illegal, because I have, it is legal for me to play these clips on the fair use stuff. But I have links to it on my website, both the written speech and the video of it, so you can see it. And he openly says that this would get into every facet of our life, from the churches, the courthouses, the schools, business, education, everything. Everything. Trump asked God to bless America in his Thanksgiving address. Obama doesn't again. And neither did Jay Inslee, our governor, ask for God to bless us in his inaugural address. I don't know. I don't listen much to him. I've talked to him a few times. He's a rather arrogant person. But that's my opinion. But it is a reality. You can read his inaugural address if you want. He doesn't even give a token mention to ask God to bless our state. This is one of the heads of Hillary's campaign. I mean, this is who she really is. This is Podesta's in his office about cannibalism. And this is a woman that Podesta and his brother went to this spiritual dinner with. And here, her and Lady Gugu are having dinner on this like dead mannequin or something with blood all over it. And here she is holding up this goat's horn. That's one of the manifestations of Baphomet. If you've never heard of that, Baphomet is like this demon, the goat demon. I've shown pictures over the years of Lady Rothschild having a big brooch around her neck. That's who the Material Girl, that singer, the Material Girl, I'm not even going to use the name that she uses, who did the thing at the Super Bowl. She was doing a Baphomet pose. You can look all that up. And of course, the left is so loving. They talk about, here's what's really going on. And I told you they were going to go after, one of the things they were going to go after is this electoral college people. And some of these people are getting death threats. People talk about shoving a gun in my mouth and blowing my brains out. In college, they're teaching that the Founding Fathers are terrorists and CEOs should be put in prison. And all they're going to do, all communism does is put someone else in power. And I have no problem with reining in unfettered capitalism. And the best way to do that is a fair and free and open press. And that is why it is the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. It's the only industry or company that is specifically mentioned in the Constitution is the press, to be free, and freedom of religion, where Hillary has openly talked about changing religion, openly. I mean, just look it up. You can hear her say it in her own words. Obama talked about it and is doing it. And of course, the Catholic bishops are allowing him to do it, but for $90 million, you can get a lot of influence. And then at least Trump will let us worship how we feel. And this is, NPR. Oh yeah, we can't have any more live interviews for conservatives, and this whole thing about safe spaces. But who are the people getting beat up? It's the conservatives that are getting beat up. This is on the island here. Wear a safety pin to say you're safe with me. I mean, this is so ridiculous. I mean, this is pathetic. Because actually you're not safe with them. Especially if you're a child in the womb. You're not safe. Especially if you're a black child in the womb. Because over 50% of black pregnancies end in abortion. And of course, and they talk about hate speech. There's nothing but talk about assassinating and shooting and killing Trump and even his supporters. I've shown signs all over the place about this. And all we're saying is, hey, Hillary's a criminal. She's broken tons of laws. Anyone else would go to jail, but they're too big to jail. And that was an interesting thing, that Obama's Justice Department wouldn't jail any of the banksters. Oh, they're too big to jail. But yet, they're going to help us. I mean, when I talk to these liberals who say that, they're just clueless. Oh, we'll get a chance to hear them in their own words. Donald Trump announces pro-Common Core Betsy DeVos as Education Secretary. Now, I am 100% against Common Core. I've done tons of stuff on that over the years. So he's like mistaken about it. We'll just have to see how this plays out. Because I'm going to call a spade. Trump, when Bush was in, I was calling for him to go to jail and showing his problems. And Trump is in. If he does crazy things, we're going to point it out. And you can believe what you want. The new UN boss tells Europe migration is unstoppable, says politicians should ignore the voters. They're setting up a global government. The only thing that's helped us is that we're removed from the largest populations of Muslims. But they're flying them in on our dime. It's insane what is going on. And they don't give a damn about the Muslims. They're just using them as tools to create the chaos that they want. They don't give a damn about Latinos. They don't give a damn about the LGBT people. Not at all. They want to kill all of them. And it's literally written in stone what they plan to do. We've got a great report by this ex-Navy SEAL, Matt Bracken. You can look that up and see what he talks about. Here's George Soros. Donald Trump will win the popular vote in a landslide, but because of all of the voter fraud, they were able to get it down to, well, and now mysteriously it's up to like 2 million, they say, that Clinton won by. Because in some centers, it's much easier for them to manipulate the vote. And of course, Soros owned a ton of the voting machines, and they're so easy to hack. And we know who he was supporting. But he says that Clinton's selection for president is a done deal. We'll see. I mean, it's not over. The war for independence never stopped, and it's always been about the money. As Ben Franklin said, we would have gladly paid a few cents in tax, but they caused depression by taking our money back from us. They've taken over our education system, and they write lies. Historical lies have been tweaked to promote the bankers' agenda, which is what our founding fathers said. And of course, Obama has given us a great legacy. John Kennedy said, by the end of the decade, we will put a man on the moon. But Obama said, by the end of my presidency, we will put a man in a woman's bathroom. And this is over in England. They're on fire for the transgender diaries. This is this is social engineering to screw with our kids. They're putting crap in the water. And, I had this guy tell me that this isn't the truth. They write books about it. Just because you don't want to read them, or too lazy, you just listen to their little sound bites, their little slogans. And that's what Hitler said. That fortunately for leaders, that the people are unwilling to think. And this is another part of Obama's legacy to show, because remember I said nothing changes. This was, in the beginning, I did some research, and like 8 years ago almost, put this out, because this happened, February 8th of 2009, so right after Obama was sworn in. There's a meeting over in Germany, and this guy goes, who's one of Obama's top foreign policy guys, he goes, yeah, nothing's changed. I take my daily orders from Dr. Kissinger, filtered down through General Brent Scowcroft and Sandy Berger, who is also here. We have a chain of command in the National Security Council that exists today. Nothing has changed. And this is how it works. This is what Trump is not a part of this system. As Kissinger has said, and here's a little clip of Kissinger saying, listen to him speak in his own words. Here it is.
Every country has been waiting for the result of the American election. And the result being so totally unexpected, they'll all have to go back to the drawing board, including we.
And here's another part of his legacy, which I showed you before. This is the destruction. This is the Peace Prize winner who did this for nothing. Syria. There's Libya over there. I mean, these people did nothing to us. He's destabilized the area. He's destroyed Christianity. He's done what his master wants. Who is his master? The devil. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. You should listen to his speech to the people at Berkeley. And here's Jefferson, a nation which expects to be ignorant and free and in a state of civilization expects that which never was and never will be. If you do not warn the people, their blood will be on your hands. This is a warning to all of our leaders, whether you're a religious leader or a political leader or a teacher. If you are a leader and you're not warning the people about this, Woe unto you! I've warned you. I'm innocent of what comes down to you on your head because of your silence when you stand before the man with the holes in his hands. Oh, and by the way, when you do, you're not going to get to talk. That's how it works. You're not going to talk your way out of it. It is what it is. And you will be rewarded. Up or down. And if you think the path to the greatest reward is silence, go for it. The bankster takeover just continues on. Let me issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws. We're going to get into this a little more, and one of the things Kissinger also said is maybe we can mold Donald Trump. And how do they do that? Well, they can cause a depression. Now, this is what they told the people in Iceland. This is the story that I always like to remind people of. We need to be like the people of Iceland, who stood up against these people and said no. Because in the last collapse, which was all orchestrated, because all the excuses they gave last time, they're worse now. And they've been getting worse every year. So by everything that they've said, but this is all about putting us into so much debt and stuff. But anyway, back to Iceland. Iceland and the people of Iceland went out and protested, just like we did when they wanted the banker bailouts. And the Congress voted against it the first time. But then the banker said, oh man, there'll be a depression and martial law and rioting. And so the politicians said, oh, okay, have whatever you want. And remember the bankers who did the negotiating, what did they do right after this tough negotiation that week on Capitol Hill? They went to this super high-priced resort and spent like $500,000 for a few guys to get stroked. I mean, it was like unreal. You can look that up. I mean, I did stories on it at the time. It's just unreal. But in Iceland, what did they say? You're mistaken, leaders. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to throw you in jail. And they did. They threw over 25 politicians and bankers in jail. How many people did we throw in jail? None. I mean, you could maybe count Bernie Madoff, because he stole from the wrong people. But that really wasn't involved in the collapse. That was before. So we need to wake people up. You need to understand monetary policy. There's a great documentary on my website. It's right near the top under the free documentaries called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. 44 minutes, you'll learn about the banking system, how it works, what really goes on. I'd urge you to take a look at it and educate others. Tell others about it. Because these guys are the master manipulators. They sit behind in darkness, in the shadows, and do this. I've got a great story coming up in a minute. But, I mean, this is a book that they wrote, Tragedy and Hope. And Bill Clinton, in his inaugural address, said, I heard the call clarified by a professor I had named Carroll Quigley. He's the guy who wrote this book, where he openly talks about it, that the powers of finance had a far-reaching plan to control in private hands and be able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. And he was allowed to study their papers for a couple years. He openly admits he agrees with what they're doing. I mean, so it's not debatable. He's not a guy like me who's against them. He thought what they were doing was a good deal. He liked it. But And here's sort of a look at how this sits up. We have a few people right at the top, and then we have the central banks, the international, and what the main bank is this Bank of Settlements in Basel, Switzerland, and then it's the international central banks, the national central banks, the more local banks, major corporations, government, and their minions who support them. This is another look at it for who rules the world. And there's up near the top is this Committee of 300, which grew out of the East India British, the British East India Trading Company. The only way you get a seat in this committee is if you have a seat, you get to name your successor. But above them, it's a little more hidden. There's this 13 families, and it's less than 20 families that own the Federal Reserve Bank. We'll get into that in just a second here. And one of the things that the global elite did on election day while we were voting, they fast-tracked their Agenda 2030, which is an update of Agenda 21, which is the takeover from the ground up. They're not only coming from the top down, but they sent minions out into all the local little governments to pass laws and stuff to bring this from the top up. I mean, from the bottom up. And they're, because all of us are so busy just working to pay our bills, our rent, dealing with families and whatever. And that's how they want it. They want people too busy to have the time to invest in what they are doing, to understand it. There's a great report by a woman on this who was fighting it because she just happened to bump into it by accident. She wasn't even looking at it. She was just trying to do something with her couple acres of land she had over by Spokane. And she found out they lost their fight even though they totally proved their point. But one of the government leaders came up and said, yeah, you're right about everything. And they caught the people who were promoting Agenda 21 just lying through their teeth, showed them the documents that they were lying, but they passed it anyway. And they found out that at that same time, 500 communities around the country adopted this Agenda 21 rules. And they were the only one out of 500 who were against it. I mean, this is just some historical facts. You can look it up, but they're just increasing. And this is going to come to a head. Because one of the things that's not going to happen, unless Hillary does get in, is that Hillary's fund camps. I played the clip for you. They've already built the camps because she didn't build the camps. She's just another cog in their overall plan. She's their little puppet. But she's more than happy to sell her soul. And I didn't show her dancing with the big mama because I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of her and how evil the Clintons are. But that's what the truth is. And I pray for them. I pray for Obama every day. They've got 2 feet in hell. That's just the reality of it. And we'll get into that just shortly. The global anti-cash access targets Australia. Been talking about this cashless society. When that happens, it's not going to be good because then they're really going to have us by the you-know-whats. But where articles used to be rare and hard to find, now it's more and more and more and more coming into view. Slow but sure, they just march on. And those who do not see the signs of the times because they close their eyes, they will not listen, and they definitely won't speak about it because of fear for themselves, I feel sorry for you because it's not going to be pretty. And another big thing about money is they intend to collapse all the currencies in the world and bring about, it's already in place, the SDR, special drawing rights. They did a test rollout of the Euro 8 years ago, but there was so much backlash to that because our countries have already been joined, Mexico, Canada, and the US, by treaty. Not by treaty since it hasn't been passed, but this was by George Bush. And I did articles on that back when it happened, like 12 years ago. You can look that up. The North American Union, Judicial Watch sued and got the documents. And they're doing everything to stop the Freedom of Information Act. I mean, Obama's been the biggest bag of pus ever. But right in there, in the very beginning, it says that we have to keep this from the public, what we're doing in secret. That's what all these trade agreements. So that's another thing. While Obama said, "Oh yeah, I'll get you out of NAFTA," and I did articles during that election, that yeah, he said that publicly, and then some of the Canadians got up in arms about it, and then he said, "Oh, don't worry, that's just campaign talk." And as we see, it was just campaign talk. What has happened under Obama? It's been the worst recovery in our history. The worst presidential growth with no GDP, that's with cooked numbers, above 3%. Doubled the debt. It's not that hard to expand, but they don't want us to expand. They need to destroy America to set up their global government. That's what's going on. That's what they said they were going to do. That's their plan. People like to talk about conspiracies, and it's like, what? It's a conspiracy that the Seahawks have a game plan to win the game that they're playing, and that's just a kid's game. What do you think these guys, I mean, you're either delusional, and actually it was the CIA, you can look that up, it was a CIA little thing to try to discredit conspiracies all involved around the Kennedy assassination. And how do they plan? What's coming is what's going to be called this global currency reset. And that's where they are going to, one of the avenues, and they did a test drive on this about 3 years ago, June, I think 19th, 20th, and 21st, they allowed interest rates. They did a test, and interest rates spiked in this interbank loan thing. It was reported to us by Lindsey Williams, and the interest rates are generally a little over 3%, and they spiked to double digits in just a little bit, and then they brought them back down by Monday morning because they weren't ready for the collapse yet. But they're getting very close. And remember Hillary Clinton's, I mentioned about her fund camps? Well, just before the election, she mentioned the fund camps again. You can look it up, March 15th, 2015. It's when she did the big speech, and then it was just before the election that she mentioned it again. Because people, when they cause a depression again, which is what their plan is, the only reason they didn't do it is because Trump got into the election, and he wasn't a rhino, who was willing to sell us out. I mean, who they wanted was like a Bush-Clinton ticket. And then, because it didn't matter. The Bushes are total traitors. The Bushes and Clintons, hell, they ran drugs back in the 80s. That's what finally got one of the big whistleblowers is a guy named Larry Nichols, who was ex-Special Forces. He was the Clintons' main man for dirty deeds. Talked about how they would steal elections. He didn't have a problem with that. And all the other shenanigans that went on. Hillary's trips once a month or every other month to LA for her little witch's brew. all of that he dealt with, but when he found out that they were running drugs, and who was he running drugs with? He was running drugs with Papa Bush, Herbert Walker. Yeah. Celly Castillo, a DEA agent, went to jail because he exposed it. And I'm not sure if his website is still up, but it was powder burns. But yeah, this is what happens. But you can see that things are, just from a normal cycle, it looks like we're ready for a downturn. Like I say, by all the numbers, they do it. Charles Lindbergh's father, Charles Lindbergh Sr., fought the bank 100 years ago from coming in. And he said from now on, our depressions would be scientifically created. And this is what we see. They caused the Great Depression. They've caused all the ups and downs. They're manipulating it for control, consolidation. This is what's gone on. Another way, here's something just to look at how things are going. Here's the Swiss watch exports year on year. And so you can see it looks like we're going down again. I've told you before about the dry Baltic index numbers. The shipping is off. Now the Trump team is working to keep Carrier in Indianapolis. Ford has announced that it's going to stay now. This was a local group that, I mean, this is here on the island, some folks supporting Not My President. They're not the violent people, but here's a fellow who's beaten for voting for Trump, and another guy, this was a supporter here during the election. The other guy, this was after the election. I mean, who's violent? The left. The left has no problems with wars as long as they're the ones in power doing the dirty deeds. And that's why they actually like the left, because the Republicans tend not to want to protest as much. But everyone's going to protest because, as Carol Quigley said, the people will wake up when the velvet glove comes off the iron fist. And they're taking it off. And that's why Hillary Clinton was talking about her fun camps. But let's listen to this guy talk about conspiracy theories and just this one little thing on Cyprus. Here he goes.
No, I just look at look at historical stuff.
No, you don't. You look at conspiracy crap.
No,
You believe in conspiracy. You believe that there's this power. This power behind all this stuff.
they write books. I have their books.
They write books.
I have.
Why don't you go dig a bunker and hide in it? Because they are out there somewhere. No, they don't do this crap.
Okay,
That's just idiotic crap.
So you don't believe that there was a Cyprus banker bail-in where they went into people's accounts and took money out about 3 years ago?
Look, do you
believe that didn't happen?
God, no. It's the stupidest crap in the world.
So that never happened.
No.
Okay.
And here's just one example of funds being frozen in Cyprus. I did tons of stuff on this back a few years ago when they did this. Anything over 100,000 euros, they severely docked your account, took money out of your account, and the people who were in the know, like the president of Cyprus and stuff, they moved their money out of their accounts just before this happened. Here's the different laws that have been put in effect around the world, in the Western world, as you can see. Here's another look at places and stuff, and a listing. You can find all this stuff online. Look it up and see if you're safe, if you're ready for what's coming. The fake left-right paradigm, that's what's going on. Just take a look around. And here's another conspiracy. Executive Order 11110 that JFK signed about money. And here it is. This is the actual bill. This is an actual silver certificate. He tried to take it away from the money changers. See, because the Federal Reserve has legalized counterfeiting for just a few families, the richest families in the world, and that's not Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. They're just the upper middle class. And here's what happened to JFK for doing that. And it's not a theory, and I've been watching on the History Channel and stuff, all these people are just lying, and just in the last couple days again. Here's a press secretary that morning saying, here's where the fatal headshot came in, right there. And I've got, you know, but they just keep lying and lying and lying and lying. And that's what Hitler said. Just keep telling a lie over and over and over, and people will believe it. And it was an interesting, just a little while ago, Trump went in and called the media liars and stuff. If you'd like to hear JFK, he went into the media just before he was killed and talked about the secret societies and stuff and exposing them. And they exposed him. Genetically modified food, Hillary's all for this. Obama's all for this crap. Eat it to your heart's content. Through diet injections and injunctions, we'll combine from a very early age to produce the sort of character the authorities and beliefs consider desirable. And to criticize them will become impossible. That's why, because of the social engineering, most people are just asleep and dumbed down and too lazy or afraid or whatever. This is from a book that I have by Bertrand Russell. He's on the other side. He's not one like me. He says, this is what we're going to do to you. Another thing, an interesting thing that he said was, people would rather die than think. And they do. And they do. Take a look at the cancer rates. It's not happening by accident. But just go ahead, keep drinking that fluoride. I have a whole website devoted to this. If you're interested, go ahead and take a look at it. Drugs are killing more people than road crashes. And remember what I told you, that's what got Larry Nichols out of it. Remember the opium wars? Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And oh, this is right from the FDA's own website. Over 2 million serious reactions yearly and over 100,000 deaths yearly to legal drugs that they're pushing, most of which aren't needed. No nation could preserve its freedom in the midst of continual warfare. Now they're founding false flag operations. Guaranteed that's what's coming. Another false flag operation. That's what the economic collapse was. That's what 9/11 was. That's what the Gulf of Tonkin was. That's all. It's worked since the days when those religious zealots attacked our capital. And Nero laughed as he said, go kill the Christians. The more things change, the more they stay the same. That's even in the Bible. Speaking the truth in deceitful times is a revolutionary act. This is building 7. Nothing hit it. It's real simple math. 3 buildings fell that day. There were 2 planes. 500-foot tall, over 500-foot tall building magically falls down perfectly into its own footprint. If you want to know more about it, architects and engineers for truth have put their livelihood over 2,500. This is some of the new crap that's coming. Welcome to a world with Watson. Of course, that's AI. This is about it teaching us. It's already the advance of cognitive is beginning to change the way the world works, decides, learns, and thinks. That's what they want to control. Controlling the children. See, control how they think, control their decisions, which is exactly what was written 60 years ago. Well, this was done 9 years ago, this article here. Next year, and there's articles all the time about the chip and stuff. They're going to try to put that in us. Here's this piece of garbage, Brzezinski, talking about it. Between 2 ages, the tectonic era, talks about surveillance and everything. And you should listen to a couple of his other quotes. You can listen to them both on YouTube. One is where he's talking to the CFR going, oh yeah, at no time in human history have this many people been awake to what is going on and how the world really works. Another famous quote of his, it used to be far easier to indoctrinate 1 million people, but now it's much easier to kill 1 million people than to indoctrinate them. Yeah, and that's what they're planning on doing. Remember the Georgia Guidestones. Get rid of over 90% of the people. You better take a look outside the frying pan, my friend, because we are getting singed, burning. The take-home message from 9/11, it was Mahatma Gandhi's, the anniversary of his very first protest, and we must be the change that we wish to see in the world. This must be a revolution of love. They will call love hate, but just look at what they've been doing. Who's been violent and who has not been violent? The proof, you'll know them by their fruits. And seek the truth and bear witness to it. This is going to stop. This is a little girl. What was her choice? This is on Planned Parenthood right here. They care, for health, passion, freedom, and strength. Well, what about this girl's health? What about her freedom? What about her choice? What about her body? That's another big thing. My body, my choice. No, that is her body, not your body. You can give her up for adoption. There's a waiting list for children to be adopted. Reality. Reality. And this is the founder of Planned Parenthood. Colored people are like weeds and need to be exterminated. But that's loving. That's what she would tell you. She'd tell you that's loving to kill the black people. Oh, you won't hear many leaders say that, but here's Nick Cannon saying Planned Parenthood is committing genocide against blacks. Amen, brother. He'll probably be blackballed if he speaks out too much about this. He'll be warned. But if he continues to speak out about this, he will be suffer financial consequences, and that's why they're quiet. You hear Oprah ever say anything about this? How about Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton? And here's on French TV bans smiling down children because it could be trouble. It could make women who aborted their children feel bad because children with Down syndrome can smile, can enjoy life. Here's a billboard. Endangered species are black children in the womb. That's a reality. Jesus sees what's going on. He gives us all the tools we need to deal with these problems in this world. Woe unto you who do nothing, whether you're righteous or whatever. You think you're going to be zipped off into heaven in the rapture, but you don't have to do anything? You don't have to get your hands dirty? Except that you pick up your cross daily and follow me, you have no part in me. Only through prayer and fasting can we change the world. Even if you know everything, if you don't have God, you're doing their work. Anyway, there's my website. There's another website, Breitbart, InfoWars, Drudge. Of course, those guys are, because they're very big, are being called the fake news now, even though they're just, Breitbart actually generates its own stuff, and Drudge is just pointing, it's just a news aggregator like I am, other than the videos that I do and stuff, because I just don't have the time, because I work a full-time job and stuff. Other ways to contact me, email, write me. Very easy thing you can do, promote my website, and there's tons of websites on my website that you can promote. Videos, you can promote this show on Channel 77, Thursdays 8 to 9, midnight, Thursday at midnight, and also, or Friday, early Friday morning, midnight to 1 a.m., and Friday afternoon, 1 to 2 p.m. And so go out this week and try to wake one person up. And remember what my Sioux brothers say, Matakawayo we seen, we are all related. And may God bless you and your family, especially in this Advent season. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.